dear.
Hi there.
How are you?
It's almost June.
It is almost June. It is. I have become very addicted to that particular song,
Yeah.
the Rocksteady song. So I play it all the time. Like it's my biking song because I'm back on my bike,
Nice.
which is a good thing.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm getting my miles back. So I'm into my 10 miles now, 10 to 12. Not at 20 yet, but
I did more spin. I never really did a lot on just the bike, though.
So the spinning got me addicted to the biking, right? And then once I got addicted to the biking, and then you pick your own songs, and then you turn the iFit people off, and then you do your own thing, right, on the bike to get you to your miles. And
Perfect.
so that's kind of been what's going on with me. You're looking so cute.
Thanks. I did a little color today because I was like, it's spring, right? It's spring.
Yes, it's spring.
I need little happiness, I think. Happy color thing. Although I never really wear it's coming out more pink on the screen, but it's more orange, but
okay.
Whatever.
Well, okay. Well, it's great to see you.
Yay.
And it's been I've had a very productive, fabulous week.
Nice. That's always a good thing.
It's been a productive, fabulous week. And I literally for the past 2 days, I didn't do my early like 4:30 rises that I normally do. I just let my body wake up kind of when it wanted to wake up, and it woke up at like 8.
Because people should not be getting up at 4:30.
All right. So I was like, okay. And then, got into my day and still made sure I got my bike. I didn't do an hour. I've only done like 28 minutes. So I'm still really in workout.
It's my rest day.
Today's your rest day?
Yeah. Hence why my hair is actually because I
look so cute. Yeah. That's what I got.
Today was my rest day.
So kind of a bit sweaty.
Okay. So we should do our introductions. Okay. So my name is Trish Braddock and this is Lizzie Morris. And we have known each other and been work community colleagues and friends now for several years. And we've had the luxury of actually having a wide spectrum of conversations way before anything in this last year happened and occurred. But they were always private. They were always just kind of us or a few people late at night with things or in the middle of the day in the hallway, but it was just kind of us. And shortly after George Floyd's murder, we were having a conversation. And at one point, Lizzie said, this is what I wish people could hear. And in that moment, I went, well, why can't they? And so here we are having these conversations where we explore difficult topics and grow and learn together, but also apply it in the workplace and what it means and what we need to be doing better in terms of training and support and helping and challenging ourselves as well. So it's pretty much a guarantee that at some point, one of us, if not both, will say something and we're like, oh, okay, that wasn't great, or that was this, but that's part of it, that's part of what we're trying to do is continue the conversation while learning. And luckily we realized we have a safety to be able to do that. So there will be times that although people are watching us, we will forget that you are watching us. And we will just engage in this conversation. It is not scripted. We don't know where it's going. Sometimes we have a topic, but for the most part, we just have a conversation with the hopes that it helps you have a conversation.
Right. And I'm so proud of us that I have got to go back to find out when our actual very first show was, because I can't remember if it was April or if it was May. I can't remember when we started doing it. So I feel like it was April, but I'm going to go back to validate that it was, because LinkedIn keeps everything and then YouTube also keeps everything.
Oh yeah.
Whereas StreamYard doesn't, but they do. So I can go back and kind of find when our very first show was. Because remember, we started in Zoom.
Yeah, we did. So I'm trying to look real quick at my calendar, seeing if I can see.
Yeah, because we started in Zoom, and then from Zoom, we were playing with platforms, and then we got to StreamYard. Because it was consistent experimentation the whole time, right?
Yeah, we were trying all sorts of things. It was a hot mess. Well, I mean, to be fair, it still is.
We were just trying all kinds of stuff. But in the midst of the trying, we've stayed consistent in showing up, right? Because this is something that is so important to us, to ask everybody else to keep showing up and having the conversations.
Yeah.
Because life does happen, and so much of life has happened from when we started to where we are today.
Well, and on top of it's exhausting, but did you see I just posted something about how many, especially white liberal kind of active, have fallen off, right? And not continuing the conversations, and how easy that is, especially as you're like, well, life is continuing again and I can get back out and I've got all these other things and my kids are finishing school. But yet these problems didn't go away. They're not gone. And having that conversation and continuing to do it. But yeah, there's actually some studies about how many organizations, pledged and then didn't donate, or how many things. And it was a tough read, but it was a necessary read.
But it's true. And this is how we got here.
Yeah.
Because our thing was, we got a little bit of an echo. I'm not sure why, but our thing was.
I don't hear it. Shockingly, I don't hear something and you do. Wow.
That's huge. That's itself is a wow. So we had said it would fall off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? I mean, we knew that. I mean, that's human nature to some degree,
right?
Too, right?
It's as much as there are people now being so sensitive, is what we said, and wanting to. What happens when it falls off and it no longer becomes center mind, and it's not the thing anymore? How do we keep it moving, right? So our mission behind that now is probably now more pertinent than when everybody was engaged and wanted to be seen engaged.
No pressure here. Like I felt like a rush of pressure right there, but it's real. It's honest,
it's real, right? Like, it's real. That's what it is, And we have a guest today who I remember I told you I was trying to get Stephanie. Her schedule was crazy because she had such an amazing background. And one of the cool things about her background is that she used to be a police officer.
I'm so excited about
right?
This.
And the fact girl power as well, because female, all of that. And she's tall like you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, right. So,
represent.
Yeah, you got representation, serious representation today. So I want to take this moment to introduce Stephanie, let you all kind of. I even got a little thing. I was a little bit. There we go.
What a great shot, man.
Right. So there is Stephanie Wall, known as Speaker Stephanie. So I'm going to bring her up and let her do her own introduction because, she's a speaker. She does all that kind of introduction stuff.
I'm like, woo, look at me looking all hot. Like,
I know. Like, that's an amazing photo.
Oh, my gosh. Look, I was sitting, in the back like, wow. Like, okay, I need everybody's background. And this is going to be juicy. And just to think you all have been talking about all these empowering and serious topics since April, in the midst of the mess.
Yeah, in the midst of the mess. When it felt messy too. It definitely felt. That was, it did feel really messy.
I mean, to be fair, does it really feel any less messy? No. Like,
I don't feel, you know what? I don't feel polarized anymore.
Oh.
So I don't feel that anymore. So I feel like I have breathing room now, if that makes sense. I didn't feel that breathing room last year.
Right. I hear echo. You all hear echo?
I heard echo.
It might be me then, because I don't hear the echo. So,
and she's like warding on earring things, but I hear echo. But never mind.
But no worries. So I'm Stephanie Wall. So I'm Stephanie Wall. That's who I am. I'm a Stephanie Wall, but I am the founder of Speaker Stephanie LLC. Prior to being Stephanie Wall, the speaker of LLC, I was Commander Stephanie Wall of our local police agency. I retired in April of 2019. My husband he retired and then he went he retired and then he went somewhere to another agency within our local police department in the area. So we never kind of leave. You're kind of tied to it. And so can you imagine pretty much all of our children, well, no, all of our, we have three adult sons, and all of our adult sons, that's pretty much what they've known as law enforcement, right? So can you imagine all of this going on is just a seesaw. You don't even know what to feel. You don't even know. It's a tough place to be, but let me tell you that it's, in order to understand, you got to know the history, and you just got to, not only you got to know it, you have to want to know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Want to know it, because I feel like it is, all of the conversations I always kind of start, no matter what, I go right back to, really, this conversation is one that's been had over and over and over and over again. It's just one that is so out there in the public, because it's not just being talked about, it's being seen,
Mm.
and you can't unsee it. It's not something you heard about. It's not the clip that we wait to come on at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever time your news come on. You don't have to wait for it to come on. You can just keep hitting repeat and go to YouTube and find one example after the other. I used to dread saying what it was I did for a living, not because of that, but because this is what I was going to get. You're a police officer.
Why aren't you doing anything? Why aren't you fixing it?
But what, not even that. Look, let me tell you about that time I got that ticket. I had an experience. Oh my God, I've got to hear. I kind of feel like almost like not a doctor. I'm not going to equate the two to be the same, but what my doctor friends say, that when they tell people that they're a doctor, then folks want them to start diagnosing them, right? When my husband and I told folks that we were law enforcement professionals, then folks wanted us to start telling them how to deal with a ticket, or how to handle a domestic situation, or a custody battle, or whatever it was, but their legal issue. It's almost the same thing, I'm sure, for attorneys. So it was like, right? I don't know. I'm sure it's probably the same for every field. Educators, oh, my son, your English teacher. Oh, well, my son is having problems in English, right? But it is significant because you never know who you're going to get, or what the situation is going to be. Well, because based on that person's experience,
Right.
Based on, you can take none of it for granted. You can't. I was never like, oh my gosh, like when someone told me a horrifying story, I received it, and my answer was always the same, and it still is the same. I make no excuses for bad behavior. Zero, nada, zilch.
That's interesting, and that's such a good answer, right? Because that answer is saying I recognize it, but I don't have control of it.
Right. But I think one of the problems. So, oh my gosh, just think about any profession. But I'm gonna just to give an example. Like, we women, we always talk about the good old boy, right? The male dominated field, Wall Street. Think of somewhere like it's just male. It's just right, and then we want change to happen, but they've been doing it the way they've been doing it since forever. The same goes with the profession of policing. It has been more than 30 years, more than 40 years, right? It's been many, many. Look, and listen, because it didn't start with Sir Vincent Peale, the father, as they say, of community policing. No, sir. No. It didn't start there. We like to start it there because that feels good. But it started further back. But if we're going to start somewhere, we're going to start with those people that it was their job to go capture the runaway slaves.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's an ugly history that nobody wants to talk about. I mean, listen, who? I'm like, it's so
wow.
It's so ugly.
There's so much in that, but yeah, it's enforcement, because legally, because again, what you enforce as an officer are laws.
Laws.
of the law. Listen, let's be clear. I know right now, and look, y'all, don't be calling me and emailing me and searching me and trying to find me so you can respond to this, because what I'm saying is the truth. Look it up. I'm not making this up. This is Stephanie's belief. Listen, Google is your friend. Google University and all the rest of the universities. Go to Harvard, Stanford, wherever, you will find this information. So here's the deal. Or maybe not, because some people don't want to talk about it. But here's the deal. Ooh, it's going to be a tough one to say. But just like Christianity, people have used the Bible to justify the means, right? And when you believe what the laws that are current, the laws that are on the books, right? They're made by man, and whatever town, city, state, right, wherever part of the world, what are the laws that are in the books that are considered the norm at that time? Who enforces them? The police. So every horror, that the shame, the stain of our nation, sadly, there's a depiction of a person that is this law enforcement person enforcing that law mighty aggressively.
Right? Well, and I mean, isn't that? I mean, that's part of what I was having a conversation with a friend, trying to help at myself learn as well as her learn and things like that. But like, that's part of what's behind critical race theory, is like actually researching how these laws were created. So then it's like, we're just law-abiding citizens and they're just doing their jobs. And yet the laws, racist in themselves, misogynist in themselves at times, in different dynamics. But then still there's almost this other layer of like, here's the law, but how I apply it to you versus what happens to you is different. But I'm just following the law. So like,
oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh.
And we can hide behind that, especially for so many, like I was like, well, if you did something wrong, you did something wrong. And yet, on the same note, I watched as personal friends, their records were cleared, right? As I watched, like I was personally pulled over by police underage with beer in a cooler. I'm like, yeah, my house is just right there. Okay, go, right? Like, and that's not something that those laws might all be there, but that doesn't mean they were all applied the same.
Facts. And there's so much to it. And I think you just nailed it. When folks have a greater understanding, and it's not about the laws, it's about the application of the laws, how they're applied. If it was universal and everybody was absolutely treated the same, and we were like robots, and the person that was applying the laws, because remember, the laws are applied by humans who have the ability to use discretion. Or even when they're not supposed to use discretion, they can use discretion because you're the officer of the law. And that is,
it's a power.
It's the power. You know, we could go down a rabbit hole. I could give you a million reasons why we all could say, everybody knows somebody that absolutely should not be in the field of law enforcement. Like, you know them. They come to the family cookout bragging about violating people's rights. And everybody is like, oh my God, is he serious? Like, those stories are great. Like, I mean, you get away with it, right? In some families, and then you shy away from, like, oh my God, he is going to. I mean, I don't really want to deal with him, but nobody calls them on their bull crap. Nobody says, I'm contacting the police department. I am recording this. My cousin, my brother, my dad, my son, my daughter, my granddaughter, my whomever. And I am turning them in and say they should absolutely not be policed. I am not going to tell them that, right?
Mm. Wow,
Because,
that
yeah,
comes into that almost comes into a responsibility that we have to take as being part of a society, which is where kind of when you think about community police, the idea of it was coming out, right, was that we wanted to protect our communities. So there were people who wanted to do the right thing initially of protection. So now today it's
they
almost
still
like
do.
they definitely do, but we all have to do the are like on the hook for the job as well. And where you're saying calling out and letting somebody know, yeah, maybe you really shouldn't be going back to work.
Right. You know,
You need to find yourself a job.
I teach ethics and criminal justice, and some phenomenal. Let me just say this. I worked with some. I worked with some really great people who, like all of us, said in the end of interview, I want to become a police officer because I want to help people, right? And you really believe in the cause and so forth. Some people, I mean, we all heard the same thing after our whatever. For me, it was 6 months in the academy. For some people, it may not be that long, right? But whenever your time period is over, you go with your field trained officer, and every officer has heard, "Hey, listen, I know what you learned in the academy, but this is how we do it out here." And if you do not have the strength, the courage, the will to listen, hear it, and receive it, but also use your own free will and still move forward and just know and operate in rights and wrongs, right?
Mm.
Operate in integrity. If you don't have the ability, if you never had it, because here's the deal, you're not going to just all of a sudden get it. You had to come in there with it. If you didn't have that skill set and the ability to begin with, this career can kill you. Because
So-
listen, apples and orange. Now, look, barrel. Is it a barrel problem or is it an apple problem?
And you can decline to answer this clearly. You can decline to answer anything, obviously. But like, I have several really close people or people that I've known as law enforcement, not family, but close friends in dynamics. And I remember asking, I was actually talking with one sergeant level and talking after Castile was murdered in Minneapolis. And that was my moment of I'm not being silent anymore. Like it wasn't George Floyd. Like that was to watch his fiance sit calmly in that seat next to him and record that with her child in the back. Like that was my moment. That was it for me. And I was having a conversation and some of the arguments that came back were like, well, that was deemed a clean shot. And I'm like, here's my problem. If everyone is deemed a clean shot by the people that should know best, I don't believe you anymore, right? If I can try to call out the uncle or the aunt at the barbecue, but at the end of the day, it's really easy for them to go, you don't get it, you're not law enforcement. And so I rely on law enforcement, fellow law enforcement, to check themselves, to call this stuff out. And what I've watched over the last few years and what I've been told with different things is like those pressures of like, look, that's what you taught, but this is how we roll. And this is what we expect. And that not even, I don't even want to say it's a bro culture. It's like a cop culture, right? Like it's a protect your own
culture.
It's a culture. And my fear is as I watch this, and I literally have the receipts that I like of these text messages of saying, at what point does everybody stop distrusting all of you? Because at that point, it's not a few bad apples. It's not just one barrel. Because if you're not willing to speak out on that, if you're not willing to say that ain't right, and I think that's one of the few things we saw with Floyd was more police officers, testifying and speaking out. But I don't see it enough, right? It's always this, no, we got to protect your own. We don't know, like at the end of the day. And I don't know how this gets better without the good ethic, strong law enforcement that say, no one's cleaning this up but us. And this is what we need to do. And I know they exist. I know that they may even be the majority. And yet, there's like, we can't hear them. And this is a poignant question because maybe it's my assumption. Is that the unions? Is that just so much history? Is that distribution and channel? Like, because I know there's so many that want to speak out but can't and get in trouble when they do, right? The police officer from New York who was one of the first ones to kneel was just blasted. There was I think Rochester, New York, who lost her job and just recently finally got her pension back, right?
Right.
Is there a one, or maybe it's more, but what keeps that quiet? Because it's got to be embarrassing.
So you pretty much answered your question. You answered it. So let me just say this. If you were in the room, I'll say 100 people that you know, right? In your hometown, that you grew up with. You know, there's some people that they have a perception of police, and the narrative has been the same. That, you know, here's the narrative. They have some of the most dangerous jobs. They put their lives on the line every day. They had to make second decisions. Right? And they have to protect themselves, and they have to go home to their families every night. They are heroes. Right? These individuals allow us to be able to sleep at home in our beds at night and not worry about crime and blah, 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 blah. Right? It's been a culture. And listen, the culture right now, and it is a shift. It's a paradigm shift going on right now. It's a little bit of a shift. It's very gentle, right? Like even now, I'm like, wow, unions are speaking out. Because I say there will be no change in the culture. And I've said it forever. This is not even new. Until the world, not just the police, because there's some verbiage that's always used, and whatever I hear, I find myself rolling my eyes because everybody knows what it means, and when I say it, you can be like, "Yep, it was an unfortunate incident." We don't have all of the facts, right? I'm going to tell you and there's some chiefs have been brave enough to say this, understanding that when they say it,
they're done.
They're standing alone in a room full of 1 million people, because the whole world, and I mean, they're going to tear them up with social media. Their lives will be threatened. Do you understand? By the same individuals that swore to uphold the laws of the land. And that is when they say, I will not tolerate, stand behind this behavior. This is not right. You saw the chief when he spoke out of George Floyd's thing. Everything. And the other officers. I said to myself, and I didn't even watch it in its entirety, even though I said to myself, "Don't bury your head in the sand." I was just too much. Until the police, law enforcement themselves in every area, because law enforcement is more than just the police. It is the criminal justice system.
Yes.
The criminal justice system itself has a culture. It's more than one thing, and it's so deep that we may never see the change that we'd like to see fully realized in our lifetime. But I'm seeing changes because now I'm hearing chiefs and unions and other police officers being courageous enough. Because don't think there's not some people quit. They just quit. They'll quit the job.
And some have done other things that just break my heart.
Right. Some people just like, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going, whatever. Right. We got your back, man. Or some go through an entire career being ostracized. I'm telling you right now, I know folks that would never spoke out as a police officer, and they did 20 some years as a police officer. They would not allow them to come up to the ranks because as far as it was concerned, they ain't have their backs. We can't get rid of you. We're going to try, though. We're going to try to make you quit. But the person did not quit. So I'm going to tell you, is this a tough road? Absolutely. And you've already nailed it. Even me speaking right now.
That's why I knew the decline. I was like, I mean, it felt.
Even me speaking right now. But here's the deal. Everybody knows how I feel. Everybody knows how Stephanie feels. So ain't nothing new here. Okay, listen. But I'm going to tell you that I'm always super proud when I hear someone speak the truth and call that ugly baby ugly. I know. I said, what? But
I actually had a pact with my best friend that I was like, no one ever thinks their baby is ugly. So we need to tell each other if our babies are ugly. We didn't really think through the whole, like, best friend probably thinks your baby is your baby. So we don't see it either. We should have told the person we hated and hated us, you have to tell me if my baby's ugly.
Right. Don't be like, oh, they're so cute. Don't say that those shoes are cute. No. Listen, it has to be. And I mean, it's I have such high hopes for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to say that Will Smith said, none of this is new. We're just seeing it more. I keep hearing folks say it's just a small minority of people that don't like the police. It's not that people don't like the police, because everybody likes the police. We want police. But people don't like the practices. They don't like those policies that sometimes we can stand behind. Right?
We don't like the power. Yeah.
They don't like the power that they don't, because
discretionary power is almost like the best way to put it for me.
I'm gonna say right now, first of all, no, it's power. Police officers, law enforcement professionals are the only profession outside of the military that in any given day, you have the power to take somebody's liberty or somebody's life. And most police agencies, and let's not even get to the little sheriff's departments down, little townships or whatever, but you are not required to have anything more than a high school diploma or GED. Maybe you might be required to have a federal agencies typically require a bachelor's degree. Not always, but typically, at least in the state of Maryland, in Washington, D.C. But even the ones that do have it, you might need an associate's degree or the equivalent, or 60 credits. So I'm saying there are great men and women that are in these uniforms, but their leadership in the world, not just leadership, I'm talking society has to make it so. Because society will smack an officer down too. Let an officer speak out. Then it's not even the doggone people they work with they don't have to worry about. It's going to be strangers across the world sending them text messages and emails and whatever, calling them cowards and this and that or whatever, threatening to hang them and all kinds of craziness for speaking out against another officer. So the society has to be we have to hold each other accountable. But we know what we have to teach them, that it's okay to not spend more time training officers how to use their service weapons than we do on how to use the one thing, the mind, the heart, your words, communication, and all those other tools that are on your tool belt. Literally, you have a whole bunch of tools on your tool belt, but they spend a lot of time. And if I'm being honest, I mean, there'll be people that are angry, but they know I'm telling the truth. See, anger, with anger, because depression is anger turned inside out, and oftentimes when people are angry, because the truth hurts.
Mm.
And there's no police department anywhere that is not trained, and we call it muscle memory. I've been in a uniform and carrying my weapon as an officer since April 2019, and I'm telling you right now, my hand still knows how to get and where it is and how to get out, right? Because for years you're trained, and that is why the officers are always touching it, because it's trained to go there.
Mm.
So until we train you, not to say that if there's a gun, then you need to have your gun out, your job to protect. But it shouldn't, and it always be the first. And then my last point, and I mean honestly, and I don't know if this is a thing, and I know it's going to sound so petty, but there's a lot of training. Officers, a lot of self-defense training, ground fighting, and all of this, that, and the third. But if you all day, every day, tell people that your job is to not get killed, we're going to teach you this so you don't get killed. Then you tell a child that if you tell a person enough that they're going to be killed, they're going to be killed, they're going to be killed, then they're thinking that everybody is us against them. So we have to stop creating us against them, because that is not how most of them come in. I work with a bunch of young people. First of all, you don't have to be and at least where I work, 21 years of age by the time you finish the academy, and you can be a police officer. 21. So how were you? How mature were you at 21?
I'm not even mature now.
I remember as a sergeant going, a little older, going on a call, and the officer that was responding, the person, it was a domestic, and it was not a physical one, it was a verbal domestic, but they were like, I need a supervisor here. You too young. The officer was there. He looked like he was about 10, but he was 21. And they were like, "Are you even married? Like, don't be giving me," because he was trying to lay down advice. I was like, "Oh boy, don't try to give it, but stick to the facts, Jack. You'll be okay." But then I remember, and then of course, I remember as a commander, as a lieutenant, so I'm in charge of all of the people, all the sergeants, everybody. And then you have the chauvinist. I want the commander, I want the leader of all these people here, and they call me. And they looking around me like, where is he? He is she, and she is present, right? How can I help you, right? So you're talking about cultures, biases, just everything. Throw all that into that pot. And then you were talking about real people coming on real jobs with real problems in their own lives. And let's not even touch mental wellness.
Well, because I was going to ask that in terms of, I keep pushing back every time someone's like, well, you either support the law enforcement or you support Black people. And I'm like, isn't law enforcement care about Black? Why is this an either or? Like, I don't I don't kind of understand that dynamic on top of it, but that's part of the narrative, right? Us versus them and what that means. But I do also then go to the stigma of just mental health, period. And, I don't think this applies to every one of the more visible or media rich situations, but there are times that there's a situation, and I don't want to call out any one specific officer, but like, I'm like, I think this person, like, this person's going to be jacked up after this. Like, this wasn't like, I'm justified, right? Like the horror of the situation, the not just the training of the muscle, but just realizing and setting that in. And I mean, my husband made comments once of like, should we get a gun? And I'm like, we can't, I won't live that way because I'll never be able to live after that. So it's not just even law enforcement deals with tough situations every single day, but when it is an unfortunate incident, the support and the stigma associated to that trauma is a joke.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I'm gonna tell. So I was, that was one of my roles also, was to is to kind of talk to folks after an officer involved shooting, the officers, like, how y'all feel, and to kind of talk about, we went through extensive training to talk about the real. Because, folks like, I'm okay. They're trying to buck up. I'm all right. And I'm talking not even necessarily the shooter, but somebody else that was there. Mm. Because that's trauma. And there are some, a couple of my officers actually shot some individuals, but here's the deal. They had a tough time with it. But you could see that everybody else was like, oh, like, it's okay. That wasn't, that was valid. That wasn't one of those type, because it wasn't a big, didn't make the news, and it wasn't something significant, and it was valid. It's a good shoot if there's such a thing, right? But somebody has to live with the fact that somebody died, and you're going to Monday night quarterback that thing. And there are some people that never get over that. And there's some people that once it happened, they're like, you know what? I can't do this. I was also a part-time recruiter, and part of that, you also interviewed individuals for the job. And I'll never forget, it was a young lady. She was on paper, man. She's like, oh, she's gonna be a great candidate. Her background, her college this, psychology major. I'm like, oh, she's gonna be great because she's gonna be able to talk to the people, right? And so during her interview, one of the questions was something around the area of like, was there anything about policing that just not as fond of, and you may not think you can do? And as I'm writing, she was like, oh, kill anybody. I could never kill anybody. I could never shoot a gun. Oh, okay, so that might be a problem, because there may be a time that you may have to. But she was speaking her truth. Mm-hmm. And then let's be clear, there are probably a bunch of people that maybe should have said, the truth is, I'm terrified. I've never been in a fight in my entire life. And the thought of someone even raising their voice at me makes me want to just shrivel and faint right now. And the thought of someone that doesn't look like me, because I've always been told they're animals or whatever, raising their voice at me makes my skin crawl. Or, listen, none of those things, but if I have to decide that whether or not I'm going to get in a ground fight or pull my gun out, I'm pulling my gun out because I'm too afraid to even be hit. That's the truth. That's real talk. But see, we don't have those conversations. And yes, it's like some people don't become doctors and nurses because they can't stand the sight of blood or a needle, right? Or watching someone die.
Mm-hmm. Is there a potential, like, I'm just envisioning a space for a second. Denver's doing something and trying some experiments and things, but like, I like think about that person and going, I totally get why you need to be willing, right? But on the same note, does every single person on the team need to be willing? Like that generalizing specialist is what I'm thinking of, Lizzie, right? Like is you almost need you need these different skills. And if we keep only doing to the one skill of boom, right, as the priority skill versus the priority skill of being able to de-escalate versus the priority skill of and coming together as a team. Now, I imagine there's still complications and challenges. And again, I'm out of my league with those things, but I don't know. I wonder if some of those quote unquote criteria of what you have to be willing to do is putting too much emphasis on the very things that lead to needing to do those things.
Okay, I can see where you're going with that. But here's the deal. There's an expectation because there are a lot of people with guns.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, they tell me, right? But here and I'm going to tell you, I mean, and honestly, I make no excuses for bad behavior. All these cases that we're referring to, these egregious cases and cases like them, these people should be not only fired but prosecuted to the highest extent. Period. Now, as a brand new, I mean, in the academy, police officer, you think in my mind, because I started out in a metropolitan city and then I went to a suburb. I thought, I'm learning this thing in the academy. I'm thinking, okay, I'm probably not even going to use here for this stuff. I'm not going to experience these things they're talking about because this is like, come on, this is getting me real, right? I wasn't even out there. I was still in field training. And the first time, one of the things you had asked was, do you have anything on you? And the person, oh yeah, I got a Glock. Oh shoot. Right? I mean, my instantly boom, right into what are you supposed to do? Bam, bam, right? But I always also maintain who I am. What you see right now is who I am, and I am always this same person. In 20 years, I had the same personality. I mean, you under arrest, but I'm still gonna be me. I mean, and I know it's so cliches, but it's so true. Every time I'm driving, or when I transport, with the wagon in the city, but it was always like, I'm sorry. And I said, you know what? Your ego. I was like, oh my God. Your ego jumped up in there and said you wasn't gonna let a female do whatever. So your ego jumped up there and got you locked up. Right? No, I know I did. Yes. Why are we even on our way to bookings? You got yourself locked up. This was ridiculous. And so, they're apologizing to me. And it's just, I'll be like, listen, this is a lesson. I have a real conversation. Listen, don't do that anymore. You didn't need to do that. You're ruining your life. So now you got to do this. You got to go through some things. And I start telling them the truth. There's no extra. I'm not feared for my life. That one right there. Mm-hmm. Right? So, listen. I don't know what the percentage of individuals that should never be in this field because it's just not for them. Because this is a field where you're dealing with people, life and liberty, and so it takes a certain kind of somebody. And then of course there's some people that come in with really great intentions, but we have got to talk about how this profession can take something that you didn't even know you had in you and create it. Right? So let's not create little monsters either. Let's not create little, right?
Power corrupts, right? Like there is a dynamic of that, whether it's law enforcement or corporations that Lizzie and I work with, right? Power corrupts.
It does. Oh, come on. We had a whole conversation about, I was on a show where we were talking about marriage, about relationships, and the real deal is right around between 30 and 50, 40 and 50-ish. is the toughest time for a relationship and a marriage, and for a couple of reasons. One of which is menopause, and two is midlife crises. Now, if you throw them two jokers in there and somebody gets some power, sorry, gentlemen, I'm gonna get ready to get on you all because it's your turn today, right now, just for this moment. And use you all for the example, so don't be mad at me, but you're the example. Okay, so here's the deal. You get your average guy. He's been average pretty much all his life. You know, you doing okay. He goes through a midlife crisis. He gets a raise, a new car, and I don't know, all of a sudden he changes something about his physique, and he starts looking and feeling more confident, which means he exudes more confidence because of the power. And he's getting his attention because of the things he has, the position, the car, and all of this, right? And all of these hostess snippers, we call them, right? All the snippers come on around, right? And now you have all this attention, extra attention. And so you kind of just don't really pay your wife too much because, and she going through menopause. So she like talk to the hand with some of this stuff. So now you got all this going on and everybody grows apart. And then, once you get over that hump, then they're like, well, what in the world did we fall apart? We just grew apart. No. Life was happening and nobody recognized it for what it was. Menopause and power. Vice versa.
I'm going to guess that a lot of people needed to hear that just now.
I'm going to tell you. Listen, woman gets power. She just gets, elevated and, she's whatever. But her wonderful, kind husband or boyfriend or whomever, their situation, they're still the sweet person they met. But their conversation, their communication style is still at whatever they met. They have no extra conversation. And what you're doing at work and all those wonderful high power things you're talking about and those galas and all of that, they're not there. And so you're not getting the attention in the field, but you're over here and the high-powered somebody who lives to conquer, you are now a target. Relationship killed because this person is going to come in there and kill your relationship and go on to the next woman. But in the meantime, that you see how I painted the picture. So, but guess what, you all? That's real, because I want you to know that statistically and the statistical data, most law enforcement professionals, particularly men, get married numerous times. They're either divorced, they can't keep a wife. It's just what it is. One, they cannot, you feel, or man or woman, you feel like you cannot come home and talk to your spouse about what you've had.
Which just adds to the trauma.
It does.
And which then feeds and creates, because you've given me a whole new perspective of how I view the law enforcement.
Yeah. Well, how amazing would the world be?
Wow.
If we all, for real, right? My girlfriend Gloria said, for real. If we all really, truly, because we talk about it and we train our officers to slow everything down. Slow it down. Most times we got 12-hour shifts, for crying out loud, right? But how often would it be if really everybody treated everybody? I know it's exactly the same. Like you said, if everybody had the Mayberry effect. I love to see the Mayberry effect, because if you knew officer so-and-so in your community, no matter what you did and you're underage, is going to be like, Stephanie, girl, if you don't knock that and deal with you like a human instead of a stat or a thing, it would change the world. It would change the world. Otis went to jail. Look on the Mayberry show. Otis the drunk went to jail all the time. They let him out, gave his own keys and all this good stuff. They still handed down the laws, but they treated him like a human despite it all. And we have to get back to that. And once upon a time, I was even the commander of the community, and I had this mental health section and the community outreach division after being a patrol commander. And when you get to the community meetings, okay, so before I go to community meetings, I will go to the briefings or the different ones to talk to the officers. Okay, what do you want me to share with the community? And they said, we want them to know that we are human. You let the community know that we are human. We got families. We got kids. We just like them. We're human.
We just want to go home too.
We just want to go home to our kids. We just want to come in. This is a tough job. We go do a lot of things. We're human. I received that and I got it. Go to a community meeting, community meetings, community members. What would you like me to share with my fellow colleagues? They wear the same uniform that I do. We want you to share with them that we are human. That we are human. We want them to see us. We want them to know that we want to go home to our families at night. We just want to be able to walk to the store, get some Skittles, walk around the corner, drive a car, get pulled over, and know that no matter who it is, if it's a police officer, not to be scared to death because we don't know which one we're getting today. But for real, we want to be like everybody else, to wake up in the morning and don't care what color we look, our skin is, don't matter where we are. We know that the police officers are there to keep us safe.
I don't know why that's not, oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know why that's not a bridge that brings people together, right? Like, I was talking to a mother, a mother whose daughter, whose father is the law enforcement. I'm like, she's like, I can't have them risking my families. I'm like, this is the same thing Black mothers are saying. Why is this not a bridge? Like, why is that?
We're all saying that. I want y'all to know we're saying the same thing, but it is so much deeper. It is so much deeper than we even know. And listen, the ethics, the history, the major, my psychology, all of my background jumps up there. But let me just tell you this. Until we recognize our biases, until we recognize the things that our beliefs, until we recognize, we ask ourselves, where did that belief come from? Why do I believe that? And what would it take for me to understand something different? Could it be possible to be something different?
What if?
What if? And until we challenge ourselves, this will continue to go on, because you know what, a narrative. And I hate to use this example, but it's a fact. If you do the history, do the research. There's a reason I want you from now on to watch any dictator. Pick the one we just had, or pick one, right? And when they talk and they're trying to control the narrative, count how many times they say that lie or that narrative. Is going to be at least 7 times. It's not by accident. It is because they're trying to control the narrative. And if you hear something 7 times or more, then somehow it makes it true. I will tell you that, and I hate to use this example, but he was the best at it. And think about the horrors that happened as a result of it. 2 people. Hitler, Mussolini, right? Awful, awful people. There's awful things that makes me cringe just thinking about it. But their tactics. Their tactics of the mind and the communication are being used across the world. Do you understand? Their tactics. Pay attention. I double dare you to go back and compare some of the things you've heard them say versus some of the things you've heard some local leaders
Well, I'm seeing it even right now, like I said earlier, like the narrative that now critical race theory is like one race is more critical. No, it was critically think about race was what the point of critical was. But like that narrative, because several newscasters said something, and other people in positions repeated it multiple times, and now states are banning things that were never even intended, like weren't even, but it reinforced it several times to where now this is that. And I'm like, wait, but that's not what that was. And even when I asked for sources, because I did that.
You got to ask for sources. Yeah,
I did. I said, what were your sources? Well, I read studies a while ago, and it's like, okay, well then here's updated studies that you can't, like, here's an actual link and things like that. But to your point, they saw it enough, they heard it enough.
Yeah.
It's like I saw a billboard for Coke enough. Now I want a Coke, right?
And think about Coke. Mm-hmm. Why do we? It's that brown color liquid, right? When we say we might want a cola, but we say I want a Coke. Give me a Coke. You follow what I'm saying? We've heard it. We've been listen. If you don't program yourself, and if you don't do the research, the world will program you.
I think that right there is the gem. That right there is we have got to make a choice to choose our programming. And when we've realized our programming is anti our desire, right? We reprogram ourselves.
Yes. And say if you ask me, Stephanie, what's the fix? I don't know what the fix is. I mean, I don't know what the over fix is, but I'm going to tell you the one thing that I know is that we're talking about people. And if we all want the same thing, you cannot choose sides. Don't choose sides. Don't bury your heads in the sand. I need you to stand in the middle and say, if you want to talk to me, you have to come in the middle here.
And the middle
I need you to come into the middle.
Humanity. Going back to my whole hashtag, our humanity is beautiful, because that's the thing that everybody is the same on, is the fact that we are all humans. My humanity is beautiful. Your humanity is beautiful. Our humanity is beautiful. It's the humanity, because the humans want to go home to their families.
The humans want to go home to their family.
Humans want to go home to their families.
To sound real Pollyanna, I hate to say it, but love is the answer. Love people, love yourself, love your community. I mean, own it. And I mean, like, for real. I mean, let's get back to it. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. I'm waiting for somebody to be like, I think I want to say, oh God, what is the police station in New Jersey somewhere? They are not playing with it. They are like, we are going. I don't care. Somebody say, you know what? Enough is enough. I've had it. Mm-hmm. I know what they say we can't do. I know they say this is a culture. I know they say we can't change it overnight. Okay, but guess what we're going to do? We're going to try. God dang it. What if? What if we could change it overnight?
What if we could change it overnight? What if one thing
Camden, New Jersey. I'm like, I know it's Camden, New Jersey.
Right. What if I can do it? What if we did? What if we could? What if right now in the middle of this shenanigans, we could pick a police agency, start with them, and change the mindset, because it's a mindset,
right?
Because it's everybody got it's a mindset problem, because everybody. I'm talking, just take the whole community and change the shift. We're not going back to where we were. We're starting a new one. We just gonna blow this thing out the water. And get everybody.
I mean, can you imagine? And then what if another city took on their model?
Bang!
Well, that's the thing is, that's what people keep saying is it's like, it's not unheard of. We do have examples of it in the US that have done it. We just discount it. There's just to what Stephanie was highlighting. There's so much history and so much power and so many other things that it's not like it's been done.
Right.
And we're still not using it as models.
Right. And so many don'ts. Listen. It's okay to disagree with policies and procedures. the two do not correlate to we don't like you. I cannot like what you stand for. I cannot like words you use. I could not like an action you take, and I could still love you as a human being. And that is what we need to get back to. And we need to stop everybody, because right now police is facing something they haven't. Policing is facing something they haven't. The ones that are there now are facing something they've never faced before, because they're, it's been years past, and that is discrimination. That people are lumping you in with people that look. Everybody's policing. They ain't say the police officer policing, but it's not separate. So they're being profiled.
Irony.
Cuckoo, and it doesn't feel good.
How are we out of time already?
I know.
I mean, we don't normally go this far over. We go a little bit, but we have gone over. But this was so good.
Yeah.
I've learned. I have learned some stuff that I have to now go sit with myself for real and do some rewiring, because I can hold my hands up. I have allowed fear, right, and the recent trauma to shift my viewpoint, right? So I have dehumanized law enforcement. Yeah. And I wasn't conscious I did that until I was listening to you. I'm like, yeah, I've dehumanized them.
I love you so much that you're calling it out and highlight. Like
I am. Seriously, totally dehumanize them, because I've seen them as the monster. So I've taken away the humanity. It's a monster. You got to be scared of the monster.
I wish you could talk to.
Right, and that's. Yeah, I gotta really sit in that.
You better sit. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Yeah, I gotta really sit with that.
There was, remember, Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch some of the talks and some of the conversations, but one of my pastor, he that's what he does. He does gracism. So he went there. He actually they brought him in to sit down with the entire town, and I mean, like, to do a whole town hall type of and different sessions. And when I talked to him about it, like, wow. And he talked about, the conversations, because we don't even know the half of it. So we knew what we saw on television, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people joke about when they see the state police out there, like, oh God, they must have a quota. You know the quota thing, right? Well, they really had one in Ferguson. Like, they really, 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 really did. Like, their town ran on all the salary. Everything was based on them finding people. So, but the people that were fined were always the poor Black people. And you get fined so much, you couldn't meet the fine, so they put you in jail. And so it was like crazy, right? But they were told, the police they had real conversations about how, we are screwed up. So they had to fire everybody. The city solicitor, this, I'm talking, they had a systemic problem that was deeper than, when you look on the outside, you're like, what? Even people from here, no, wait a minute. How is that even possible? Mm-hmm. So they had a bigger problem than that. So you put that problem on top of the next problem and the next problem, and on top of their historical racist acts. And then we have this, and then from there, we had a new thing that was created, Blue Lives Matter.
So it's now I'm in shock. I'm going to be going to research, right? I knew a lot about the things, and one of the dynamics is people always kind of the riots and Ferguson and stuff, and that narrative of what they discovered and what they dismantled and stuff is not out there. That is the first time I'm hearing any of that, and I'm but yet that is always lifted up as a prime example of why you know, like
everything else is a problem.
And Blue Lives Matters came about, right? Like, it's without, here's a whole group of people willing to acknowledge, and that part under the radar.
You know, some people, folks always tell me like Blue Lives Matter. I'm like, y'all, I only blue person I know was a Smurf, and that when I was on the cartoon, I used to watch, and I mean, it is like, what in the world? But and just the fact that it came about is so ugly. It's not for the. It's so ugly.
Well, it was just a counter narrative, right? Because then how are you a bad person if you support law enforcement, right? Like it's a narrative that makes you stop talking about the issues.
I'm gonna leave you with this. I'm saying, if I tell y'all one more thing, y'all gonna be no. But let me just tell you.
I'm like, I don't want to stop.
One more thing. I can just go on and on. But let me just, okay. So and I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be honest. I want you to boom. When I say the word thug, what does a thug look like?
Oh, for me, it's a Black person.
Bam!
Right.
Thank you.
And I hate that that's my answer, but it 100%.
Yes.
I'm being honest.
Not only that, it's a Black person wearing a hoodie.
No, mine's not a hoodie.
Mine's a hoodie.
I don't know what this is. It's a do-rag. It's the stereotypical quote unquote ghetto, like hood rat kind of thug.
See? That's what I'm saying.
And I own that. Please, no emails and hate mail. I understand that is a horrible freaking thing. I'm owning it.
The truth.
But it is what it is for me. And I'm still adjusting that and doing those things. But that was what was marketed to me. That was what I was brought up with.
Yes, that's the key. It's what has been, when we talk about the narrative and we talk about marketing, we often put marketing aligning to products that we're buying and great things. But marketing techniques
to society
is what is used on society, which is why we have a systemic problem.
I got so many questions, but I so appreciate you because I like that you, Trisha, that you just gave it to me. You didn't water that thing down. See, this is what I'm talking about. But see these conversations right here. We just had a whole conversation and nobody's offended or affected, like in a negative. You follow what I'm saying? Right. This is what has to happen. We have to talk about, like you just said, this is what it means to me. And if I said, where'd that come from? You would be like, you know what, Seth? You would be able to tell me, either, I don't know, but I think because blah, blah, blah. I'm going to tell you, okay, this is my last one, I promise. Because I didn't even know what this was until social media told me. I didn't even know it was a thing. So I'm on social media. And one I call, so listen, this is, you're going to laugh. So everybody receive it. Trisha, receive this. So all of my white girlfriends, I call them my light-skinned girlfriends. I said, look, my light-skinned girlfriend, right? So my light-skinned girlfriend said, like, I was so offended because it was like, because of Karen. I said, what the hell is a Karen? They had this help. I was like, what's a Karen? Somebody, they were like, where have you been? What's a Karen? So, Trisha, what's a Karen?
Well, I almost want to ask you a question, though. Is the minute you got told what a Karen is, you were like, you had the image in your head, though, didn't you?
No, yeah. Once they told me what a Karen was, everything I was,
yep.
Of course, everybody knows Karen is pissed off, like, why it got to be. Look, you can be Karen or you can be Karen.
Becky's are very happy right now because Becky's have had enough with it.
I was like, that is hilarious. But here's the deal. We have to laugh at it all. But we have to own it.
Yeah.
Stereotypes are derivatives, or they derive from something.
There's truth in there, right?
There's like, truth up in there.
You've earned it.
And after I heard what it was, I was like, oh my God, how many times have like people called and swear to God, now I ain't gonna lie to you, it was usually Karen, but usually it was a lot of Becky's.
Yep.
Also known as Rebecca. I'm sorry, Becky. But yeah, but seriously. It is, but again, even with all of that, I want to get back to a place where we can laugh at each other again.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about how silly or how stupid or what can we replace that stereotype with, or just say, you know what, but you all, that is a real stereotype, and it is some basis on it, and own it, and not be offended.
Yeah.
I
And
think about Star Trek, and I know it's fiction, right? But when you think about all the different Star Trek derivatives that have been made over the years, right? They all have so many, and I have to call them entities now, right? Because it's not just humans, right? So many living entities that learn to work together and live in harmony.
Right.
But it's so far in the future. And what is hilarious is when they come back in some of the shows, do you know what I mean? They come back to like, what is our time now, making our time the history. They go, yeah, it was crazy. They had issues about the way people looked. Why would they have issues about the way people looked? Really? Yeah, because people looked like this and then, really? They did something like that? What was wrong with them? And the way that it's referred to, do you know what I mean? In the way the writers write it, it makes me think, wouldn't it be nice
someday,
right, if the context and the marketing started to be towards having the Star Trek happening now?
Ooh, what if?
And all of that, because I do have to go with the
I have to go too, but
all
that
of
is so
that
good.
is tied to the fact of the thing of what we're doing and what we're continuing to do is just to have the conversations. You can't learn, you can't expand your bubble. And I do it every minute I can. And it's hard and it's overwhelming, no matter who you are as a human, to know that you might have caused hurt or impact, but you can't get to that Star Trek narrative without it.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier, Stephanie. I think that Lizzie jumped on it right away too with it, is like, if you don't write your own narrative, somebody else will. And I'm done with the narratives being written about race and gender and basically every intersectionality, because we're all human and doing that. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Lizzie, for making this happen. Thank you, Stephanie, for coming on.
I feel like we're gonna have to do like a part 2.
I know.
I think we're gonna have to do a part 2 because this was just so like, whoa! I learned so much. So many things have come up for me that I've got to go work on.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you gave me some serious help. Like I'm not busy enough. But I got some stuff I got to work on because I don't want to pass on what was my internal narrative.
No, don't.
I want to do that.
Your head in the sand.
Yeah, I have to deal with that.
Don't dehumanize anyone, because
Right.
that's part of the problem, is that everybody is dehumanizing each other.
Yep, that's it. So look in the mirror. As you're looking in the mirror and seeing yourself and you're seeing that you're human, remember the people you're looking at have mirrors too. And when they look in, they see that they're human. So let's get to the point where we start to make Star Trek part of our everyday. So all of our different entities and presentations truly will be beautiful. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We are so appreciative of you guys when you watch after the show. Send us comments. We're loving you. Thank you so much for being on, Stephanie. You can find Stephanie on social media. Look for Speaker Stephanie. You'll find her all over social media. She's doing lots of stuff. She's got a book. She's got her thing she calls Our Story, Your Story. There's just so much stuff. You just got to follow her, right? You've got to do that. But you have changed a narrative for me today, and I appreciate you for doing that. Thank you so very much. Again, everybody, thanks for watching. Take care.